executive order. And it's also true that Republicans seem to think that they play by a different set of rules. So I've given you the answer that, as a good Democrat, is the right answer.
Right.
But I think you have pointed out that Republicans don't always take the technically right answer and run with it.
Correct. I mean, they would rather ask for, I would say that they would rather apologize than ask for permission, but they're not apologizing either. And so to that exact point, then, I mean, look, we ignore these threats, especially when they come out and say what they want to do at our own peril. We bury our heads in the sands at our own peril. And so do you have any concern that they are going to barrel ahead with this? Because this idea of punishing judges or reshaping the judiciary has been such a priority for them during the Trump administration. I mean, they've gone on and on and on about how they want to impeach judges whose rulings don't comport with their political ideology. And so given this really aggressive, really hostile tack that they're taking against the judiciary, is this a space that we would be remiss not to look at very closely?
Look, I think we need to look at it very closely for a couple of reasons. First is that there may be some must-pass bills that Congress has, and they try to attach this kind of stuff, and that's always a risk. And then, but the second thing is, Brian, to your broader point, part of what I suspect they are trying to do here is to work the refs. Now, who are the refs? The refs are certainly the judges themselves, right? They may be trying to intimidate the judges from being able to, at the margins rule, against them, right? So they may be trying to affect that. They may actually be trying to target John Roberts, the Chief Justice, who has shown himself but very sensitive to attacks on the legitimacy of the courts. And he is definitely, sure, he recently came out and defended against the attacks of suggestion of impeachment, but he's kind of like a both sideser. You know what I mean? Like he's more likely to be a like give and take kind of guy. So he may be trying to play there, but I think the real refs he's trying to play here is just norms, right? I mean, when Donald Trump came out and said he was going to make Canada the 51st state, or take over the Panama Canal or Greenland, most Republicans were like, "That's nuts." Now you have Republicans. I mean, was it Marco Rubio? One of them was like, they've been very rude. Denmark's not been a good ally. Why? Because they won't give us their country. I mean, but so you worry.
How rude of them to want to hang on to their sovereign territory. That is rude. They didn't even say thank you for deigning to allow them to keep their territory. Now we get to take it.
Right. Do you know what I mean? So you do worry that as batshit crazy as it sounds today, that they would try to target, entire judicial districts, that maybe they figure, look, we're only 3 months in. We've already gotten the ground, ready to deal with, Greenland and Panama. So what's a few federal districts and states?
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly right, though. I mean, if you move the Overton window, if you shift the Overton window so far to the extreme, and we're in a world where you wake up and it's normal that the United States is threatening to invade not only sovereign countries, but our top allies, then I guess eliminating a few court districts right here in the United States, by comparison, seems really tame. But to your point about...
And by the way, the crazy thing about it, which I can't let pass without it, is it's that they then accuse these countries of being rude. Zelensky comes to the White House. Donald Trump is like, by the way, I've been working it out with Russia at meetings you're not even invited to, and then he's like, and you're being rude about it.
Yeah. I mean, it would be scary if he wasn't doing this in earnest. You had mentioned John Roberts and this idea that he's trying to work John Roberts a little bit. Wouldn't he and other people in his position recognize that the more you actually give to this guy, Donald Trump, the more he's looking to take? And so if you kind of bestow some goodwill onto him in hopes that it's a give and take, and then you recognize that this isn't a give and take, it's just a take, and when he smells blood in the water, he takes more and more and more, isn't there extreme danger in capitulating to him even a little bit? And we're not just seeing this as it relates to the court. We're seeing it as it relates to how he's comported himself with regard to media companies, with regard to law firms, with regard to newspapers. Universities. And so this is what he does. And the pattern is so well established that once you try to negotiate with him, once you try to make a deal with him, all it shows him is that you are weak enough to capitulate, and so eventually he's just going to take everything from you. We saw it as well in the public integrity unit. These people thought that, okay, if we can find one prosecutor who's willing to sign off on this Eric Adams dismissal, that will protect the rest of the unit. Ultimately, the whole unit was disbanded anyway. So there is no virtue in engaging in good faith negotiations with somebody who, at the end of the day, only looks to get as much as he can and isn't interested in whether it's an even compromise.
Yeah, look, I think that is the central lesson that everybody needs to learn about Donald Trump, right? I mean, I think there are a lot of people who now understand that Donald Trump is an autocrat. I think there are a lot of people who understand that Donald Trump is completely unhinged. What we have not gotten to is what I think is the central truth, which is that he is also an unreliable partner, right? Like, you can't make a deal with him that sticks. And you mentioned the public integrity section, where, as you say, the lawyers in the public integrity section made a big show that they had all been called into a room and they were told, if one of you does not agree to sign this dismissal of Eric Adams, then all of your jobs are in jeopardy. And they made this big to-do that one of them had stepped forward and done it. And I was very critical of it at the time, but a lot of people lauded it as heroic. What's happened a few weeks later, as you pointed, he's basically dissolved the public integrity section anyway. But look at Paul Weiss, the law firm, right? They go in, they're going to make a deal with Donald Trump and say, we're going to give you $40 million of pro bono, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. And then literally, like, they leave the White House, Donald Trump adds 2 additional components to it and releases it publicly. Yeah. And so now, like, you're the chairman of Paul Weiss, like, he's in no position to now push back on Donald Trump, but Donald Trump unilaterally amended the deal. And then finally, I'll mention one other. Columbia University, they gave a lot in their deal with the Trump administration. And then what was the reaction? Well, it turns out that was just a deal to be able to have a discussion about what other concessions they make. Like, yeah. I mean, like, there's just no end to what Donald Trump will do to humiliate the people who make deals with him, which is the reason why, I've made clear that I'm not going to bow down. I'm not going to try to make a deal. Donald Trump can do what he wants, but I'm going to fight him every day in court where we can. And I will speak out every day against him, until I don't have a breath left in me to do so. And I know that you feel that way. And I think that is the attitude that we all have to take for the next few years.
And so, Mark, I think it's important right here to focus on one thing, because if the shoe was on the other foot here and Democrats were engaging in 1/10 of what Republicans, including Mike Johnson, are threatening right here, which is not just that they're unhappy with certain decisions that are being handed down by judges, but if they're unhappy with these decisions, that it's not to appeal, it's not to figure out some further litigation, it's just to eliminate these judges altogether. What would you say to these same Republicans in the event that the tables were turned and that Democrats were doing the exact thing that Republicans are doing right now?
I don't know. You mean, what would Republicans do if Hillary Clinton used a server, a private server for non-classified email? Would they object to that while at the same time they are planning wars and sharing classified information on Signal? I don't know. What would the Republicans say? You mean what if Democrats last Congress said maybe we should have a modest change in the judiciary so that plaintiffs can't choose an individual judge. If you go to a district, it has to be randomly assigned to all the judges in that district, so that you can't just cherry pick a favorable conservative judge in Texas. And Republicans said no to that. What would happen if now the shoe were on the other foot? We know what would happen, right? The Republicans are shameless. I mean, they simply do not have an ounce of dignity left in them. Mike Johnson saying using Signal in the way in which it was just used is no big deal is unbelievable in light of everything that the Republicans said about Hillary Clinton. The only thing more shameful than them is the fact that the media covered the Hillary Clinton emails thing like it was the biggest scandal in American history. And this is kind of like, oh yeah, they use Signal. We use Signal. What's wrong with Signal, right? Like there's hypocrisy. The Republicans thrive off hypocrisy. I'll leave you with one more, Brian. We continue to see that Donald Trump is targeting law firms every day. He's targeting lawyers. He's targeted me individually. He's targeted big law firms and just added to that list. Imagine just for a second, if Joe Biden had said, not I'm banning lawyers, not I'm doing, not that I'm issuing